kind of the songs, or some of the songs off it, had been kind of kicking about for a really long time. And a lot of them were co-writes and stuff, and I was like, right, I just need to get these finished. So my manager put us in touch with Jim Law, who had done Stereophonics, and was super cool.
Hi, my name's Moussa-Mann, and I wanted to make this podcast to highlight the women who are working in music production, in the hope that it will spur more women into having the confidence to not only produce their own music, but call themselves producers. My guest today is Newcastle-born singer, guitarist, songwriter and producer Cortney Dixon. Cortney's 2 debut EPs were championed by BBC Introducing in the North East, with Half My Heart from her Our Intuition EP receiving national play on BBC Radio 1. On top of all that, she's an absolute dream to chat to. Welcome to She's Doing It, So I'm Doing It.
I think I got into producing through kind of like wanting to take control of like my own sound and like being able to do it on my own kind of thing. Like not in like a I'm gonna do this on my own kind of thing. Just obviously you know, you get a lot of setbacks by having to like work around other people's schedules and things like that, and I just kind of wanted to take my music into my own hands a bit and like being able to like work on it and figure it out at home. And it kind of mainly came from I'd released some songs and stuff like that, and you know, got them produced by other people, and I just never quite felt like I'd found my sound or found what it was that I actually wanted to do, or what it was that I wanted to sound like. So basically I just started to experiment, and I thought best case scenario is I can produce really good demos, so when I do go in with people that are going to produce my songs, it's just going to be like recreating the demos on a bigger and better scale. And it was all fully realised before I went in, because it's very easy to be in with a producer and it taking a turn that you're like, crap, I didn't want it to go down that way, but that you just end up going down this whole rabbit hole and you like it, but it's not really what you set out to do. So I just thought it can totally be what's in my head if I can have the skills to bring it to life. And so that's kind of how I got into it, and then I got really kind of far into it during lockdown, when it kind of wasn't really possible to work with other people, and I just had all of this time on my hands and was like, all right, I can just totally dive in and learn it. And I was on like a total writing roll, so I was like, well, it just makes sense to just produce it while I'm here. So I just spent days on days just doing it, and I absolutely loved it.
So because you took part in Lisa Murphy's Women in Production course,
yes,
didn't you?
I did.
So when did that happen? Had you already started producing when you got into that?
Yes, I think I'd already produced like a little EP in my bedroom that I'd released on Spotify and all the other doodahs, and I seen that come up, and it was just when like lockdown was kind of easing. I think the last 2 years is a total blur, so I'm not quite sure when things happened anymore. But yeah, I think I'd already released it. Either I'd released it or I'd finished it, and then I seen Lisa's course advertised, and I was like, well, I just need to do that, and it was amazing.
So can you tell me a bit about it, like what sort of things you learnt there, or even was it about learning, or was it more about growing in confidence? And
it was kind of both, really. I found it was really good to like get into studios. We did a day in Blast and a day in Blank, and we also did a day in the old church studios. So it was kind of like the first time I'd had a glimpse into like how to use microphones to like record drums and things like that, because up until that point I was all very much like in the box using like programmed drums and things like that, but all my stuff in my head was like very organic sounding and real life kits and stuff. It was just I just used programmed drums to like, because I was in my bedroom basically, and I also didn't know how to do it.
Programmed drums are electronic drums that can be created using a MIDI controller. It's a way to create drum patterns which you can loop, create variations of, and arrange without actually having to play drums live. Like any instrument played live compared to the electronic version, the difference is that live played drums will have a different feel to them, both in the way that they sound and the fluidity with which they are played. But you can get pretty good sounding programmed drums using software such as Logic. Fun fact, in the 1930s, the innovative and hard to use Rhythmicon was developed by Leon Theremin, the same guy who invented, you guessed it, the theremin.
Yeah. So that was like the first taster I had of like miking up drum kit and recording through amps, and we kind of did a bit of learning about the different mics that you use on certain things. So that was like super interesting, and I got like a real taste for it, and then wanted to learn more about it, which I then went on and did. We also did a lot in Lisa's like mix room that she set up, which was like incredible. And I honestly feel like one of the biggest kind of benefits I got out of that course, aside from Lisa's expertise obviously, was she gave us access to a space, and at that time I didn't really have much or many like plugins and things like that, not really like dove into that world, and you know, again, it ended up being like quite expensive and stuff, so I was just kind of doing what I could, like using like the Logic stuff.
Yeah.
And she just gave us access to like a space and all of our gear and our plugins and stuff, and just a set of keys, and I spent quite a lot of time in there, and that was really, really good. And I just got loads of time to experiment and, you know, use different plugins, and then I went away and spent loads of money buying them. Thanks, Lisa, for that.
A plugin is a software add-on that you pay extra for. Logic comes with loads and loads of sample sounds, including pianos, organs, bass, and of course drums. But sometimes when you're working on a particular song, the sounds that Logic has isn't quite right for that song. For example, especially with piano sounds, the Logic pianos often sound too rigid or electronic or a bit too harsh. When this happens, you might want to buy a plug-in piano that has a sound that suits your production. These can cost a lot, but bear in mind that you own these plugins forever and may use them on songs in the future, so they are a good investment as long as you get the right ones.
But yeah, and it was just really good, it just being like the four girls and stuff, and us kind of talking about, you know, I think we were all like really afraid to call ourselves producers.
Well, I wanted to talk about that, because I have a question here. Do you call yourself a music producer now? And I wanted to just chat about that, because, I mean, I struggle with that. Like, I feel like because I haven't produced for someone else and it's not something I've studied, I can't call myself that yet. But at the same time, I like take my production like really far in the arrangement and everything. So like, yeah, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that and what came out of like chatting with other people about that.
Yeah, actually it's really funny that we've got onto this so soon, because I had a total meltdown this morning where I was like, what on earth am I doing a podcast about music production? Am I even a producer? I don't know. Should I do it? I'm going to cancel. Oh my God. And so I think I still have like, after that course, Lisa was really like, you are producers, like, and I was like, yeah, freaking, I'm a producer. I'm going to call myself a producer. But that feeling, it comes and goes, man. I've not produced anyone else as of yet, but it is something that I really want to do, but feel like I really need to kind of like nail it before I take someone else's pride and joy into my hands. So I've did quite a lot of work with John Martindale at Blank, because I got some Arts Council funding. Do you know the Developing Your Creative Practice thing?
Yes.
Yes.
You got
that. Yes. Oh, did you get that?
Nope.
Oh, right.
But to be fair, I really half-heartedly applied. I haven't really, gone into trying to get it, but that's really great. I was actually, it's one of the questions I've got later on, so I'd love to hear about, the funding and what you did with it, so carry on.
Oh, right, fab. Do you want us to keep going down this thing?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Definitely.
So, yeah, that was for developing my production. So I did a lot of work with John, and he talked us through kind of, again, like how to set up drum kits and like everything like patched in and stuff like that, and I really loved that. So yeah, I also did some one-to-ones with Paul Gregory from Lands on the Lake and stuff. So yeah, kind of like I used quite a lot of the funding to like pick people's brains and be like, just show us how you do it.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it was kind of like spent in the studio with John, like trying to get hands on and kind of learning a lot off him and learning like blank as a studio and stuff like that. Because obviously, you know, using a studio like that is so different to just recording in your bedroom. So I felt like I used the funding as a continuation of like Lisa's course. Like I kind of wanted to dive into it more, and I do work better with stuff being like a one-to-one instead of like in a group, because I just need to be like, okay, I just need to physically have some time to just do that, and like I need to plug that into there, so my brain goes, okay, that goes into there. I changed my Instagram bio after it and was like, singer, songwriter, guitarist, producer. I have just recently taken that back off though. So I'm just very all over the place with whether I want to call myself a producer or not. But I think it's just a title that you just earn and you do more stuff, and then you just like, do you know what? Yeah, I am one, whatever.
Yeah. Well, let's jump a question, because I'd like to hear a bit more about like the funding stuff and how that worked out. But I'd like to talk about, it is an album, isn't it? Our Intuition. It's not an EP.
I think it's an EP. Yeah,
it is.
It's an EP.
Sorry, I was just listening to it this morning and like going through it.
It does come across confusing though, because I think I put too many tracks on it, and then when it gets released on Spotify, I think it does say it's an album, but it's not. It's an EP.
It's an EP. Okay. So on that, you are listed as a co-producer for quite a few of the tracks, and I wanted to ask about like how, like, working with a producer on that, what that was like, and then how that came about, sort of co-producing.
Kind of the songs, or some of the songs off it, had been kind of kicking about for a really long time, and a lot of them were co-writes and stuff, and I was like, right, I just need to get these finished. So my manager put us in touch with Jim Law, who had done Stereophonics, and was super cool.
Just in case you didn't catch that, Jim Lowe is a Grammy Award-winning producer with a shimmering credit list that includes iconic artists such as Taylor Swift, Stereophonics, Foo Fighters, and Beyoncé, to name a few.
And she'd already put us together because trying to think now. We'd already done a songwriting session together, and it went really well, and we really got along. And I was like, oh, well, you know, Jim might be good to finish off these tracks and whatnot. So we did 3 tracks that I'd had for a really long time. And yeah, it was kind of like we did them together, and I told them what we wanted and stuff like that. And then it kind of just felt like tracks just kept getting added to this EP. So I think we started off with 3, and then me and Jim wrote Half My Heart together. So I was like, let's put that on the EP, and then yeah, we kind of like produced that together.
When you're producing it, because the way I work at the minute, so this is all I know, is that I do it at home in Logic, and then I'll send as much as I've done to someone else, and they'll kind of build it up. And so what's it like? Were you doing this like actually in the studio?
So yeah, we were in the studio together, and we'd kind of, because we'd written it kind of in a day, we were just both like putting parts on top of it. So I was like putting guitar parts on it, and then he was putting like some keys parts on it, and then it was just a case of we were both just sat there really just adding parts. And I mean, he was very much like on the he worked in Pro Tools, which I don't. I work in Logic, so it was a little bit frustrating like being quite hands off on that side of stuff, but in terms of like being like, oh, I want that there, or we need that there, it was kind of like quite equal. We both had a lot of suggestions and whatnot, and then it was funny actually, we had like this, I think at one point we were like really on the same page, and then we just had 2 very different ideas as to where the song should go. So I just started singing that like, sick of the accent, bored with the nightlife, and he was just like, no man, like it just needs to like just be all really ethereal and then just like fade out. And I was like, no man, it needs to go chanty, it needs to be chanty. And he was like, nah, I disagree. And I was like, look Jim, I'm gonna fight you on this, right, because I really think I'm right. And that was kind of like a really that was the first time in the studio where I ever felt confident enough to say that. I'd worked with people before that I was always just like, they must be right. Like, they say that, they must be right. I'm just gonna let them do their thing. They're older than us, they know better than us, they've done more stuff than me. But this was when I started to really just be like, nah, I really feel strongly about this and I really think it's right. And I was like, shit, I can't believe I'm fighting Jim on it. But I was just like, I really think it's right. So then he went off, we did it. He's like, fine, we'll do it, whatever. So he just kind of like pressed record. And a lot of the stuff in that song is leading up to the chanty bit is just ad-libs. And I don't even know what I'm saying. It was just very like flow of consciousness. And we kept it in because it just felt good. And I'm like, how am I meant to recreate that? So it was a very conscious decision about, let's leave it in, it feels good. And then I just started just chanting this stuff and he just kept like pressing record and we just kept layering it up. And then he went to the toilet and came back and played it and he was like, oh, you're so right. So I feel like then we'd established like a really good relationship that it was like, I think it's it's really important to have a relationship where you can kind of push back on each other's ideas and it'd be okay and the other person not get stroppy about it. So we both had experiences of that. So for example, in What You Want to Do, he had this synth part and I was like, no, I hate that. And he was like, just live with it. And I'm, no, I hate it, take it out. And he's like, live with it. So I took it away for a night and I came back next day and I was like, it's so good, it needs to stay.
That's interesting.
And then Nobody Knows, that was kind of, that song kind of came out in like 20 minutes in my studio in Newcastle and was just like jamming out. And my keyboard player at the time, he was like playing around just like these like arpeggios and stuff like that. And it was just this like really kind of like lush kind of reverby tune and it came out really quick. Nobody knows you're here, still I see. And then I was like, kind of doesn't really fit into the EP, like we need to make it a bit more poppy.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so in that case, it was me and a few of the other lads at my band who kind of like got in the studio and jammed out some ideas and some cooler parts for it or whatever, so it fitted in with the other sounds. And then we sent those to Jim, and then Jim kind of, I went down, took them down with us, I think. And then, we kind of like built that up, me and Jim. It was kind of...
ask about, because it's interesting, I was going to ask about, because I absolutely adore that song. It's been in my head like ever since I heard it. But I was going to ask about like what it sounded like, just as it was written, and then how that developed into what kind of were there any influences that kind of pushed it towards what it became?
Do you know what I kind of regret? Like I kind of regret what it came out as, because I kind of miss. Actually, no, I don't. I like some parts and I miss other parts of the demo. So originally, I think it was a little bit slower and the snare was kind of just like, the beat, like there wasn't really much of a beat. It was just like a kick and a snare. Yeah. And all the other space was filled with just like really reverby guitars and arpeggiated synths. And that was kind of it. And it was really beautiful and really nice. But like when you just get the, oh God, this isn't very like cool or poppy and it doesn't fit in anything else I'm doing. So we kind of, we made it fit. And in some ways I really love it, but there's still parts of the demo now that I'm still like, basically I think if I were to do that track again now, I would do it very differently. I'd probably do very differently from the demo and I'd probably do very differently as to what it actually turned out to be and was released. But I think that was I let that go really quick because I kind of had to. It was just out there and I'd released it. And I just think that song, because it was just mainly guitar, vocals and like a little arpeggiated synth to start with, like such minimal production, that it could have gone anywhere. Like you could have done anything with it. And so I'm very settled. I would like to release the demo at some point just to show what it was, because it is interesting.
I would love to hear what it was.
I'll send you it.
I would love to compare. Please do that.
It took quite like a a few different turns and whatnot, but all the melodies and lyrics and all that like stayed the same.
Yeah.
Only I think that another start when it's like, no one knows you're still in my head. That was like a total in the studio last minute. Oh, I'm just gonna add this on.
Yeah.
And that's now part of the song.
I suppose one of the reasons I wanted to do this was I noticed like female artists that I know who are kind of on BBC Introducing or just, you know, locally even. I kind of have a feeling or know that they are producing stuff at home or doing most of it. And then they're maybe working with someone else and they're, you know, doing the mixing and mastering. But no one ever asks them about it in press. It's never discussed on the radio. They're never, you know, the guys get called like, oh, they're making it all in their bedroom, but the women never get asked that. And that's something I've noticed. And I was wondering like what kind of obstacles you came up against.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because in a way, like, I think it's kind of, you just need to like go in and instantly just kind of take control so no one like second guesses that. I feel like I think the people I've worked with have been just really respectful and kind of just see us as you know, like just gender's not important. It's just like it just is it's just we're just both in there making music and stuff. I've kind of found stuff more in terms of like sometimes when you sat in sessions and it doesn't happen anymore, but I found when I was first doing stuff and there's other band members there, it's like they start discussing your song without you in like a production thing. And I really, really hated that. And I was like, why is everyone asking production questions to each other and not me? And it's like my song, like why aren't you asking me here? So just straight, I think there was one session that I did a really, really long time ago, and it was like just these people deciding production like on my stuff, and I was kind of really like, I think I wasn't even asking myself the questions like, do I even like this? I was just like, oh, they must be right, like just keep going with it. And I was really young, and I think for me it's not been more of a gender thing, it's been more of a lack of experience and just feeling like working with people that were older than us and not feeling confident enough as the youngest person in the room to be like, actually I don't think that's right and that's not where I want to go. It's kind of always been like, oh, they've got more experience than me, like just let them do that. And then as I got older, I've really had to kind of like go, what is it that I want to make and what is it that I want to do? And I found once, now that those ideas are like fully developed and I really know who I am and I know what I want to achieve, it's so easy to just go into a studio and kind of just be like, I want this, I want that, I don't like this. And straight away it's like just gender's not a thing anymore. It's just, and obviously that's working with the right people as well, do you know what I mean? And I could imagine working with other people and it maybe not being the same, but I've had quite a good experience with it, and I've actually found that now is a really good time to be a female producer because like everyone's kind of wanting to help out women in production because they know that there's not many. So it's like, okay, there is women that are in production, and I think maybe women are just a bit scared to be like, I'm a producer. Maybe I don't, it's hard because I don't want to offend any guys or anything, but maybe guys are just
I think
a
it's
bit
worth
better
saying
at going.
that I was thinking about this today, that a lot of the knowledge I've gained and like the support I've gained has been from men who, you know, do it the right way and actually are nice and care, and so it's not to be male bashing, but then there are those experiences, and I've probably the same as you when I was a lot younger and kind of didn't feel like I could speak out, that you're kind of like just letting people take your stuff and just do that with it kind of just mess it up, and you just sit there and then you've got this product that you don't like.
And you don't even feel like it's yours. I think I never felt like anything was mine until very recently.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's an awful feeling, but it's a good feeling to have had, because now I know that I don't want to feel like that anymore, and I just want to work with people like John from Blank. I absolutely can't like compliment him enough. Like he just wants to like, don't know, like help. And I think everyone that I've surrounded myself with, my band, Luke, who I've also like done another track with, it's just been like, I'm always just like, how did you do that? Like, what did you do there? And they'll just happily tell you. And it's almost like they want to help you because they know that there's not many female producers and everyone wants to be more. And I think it's like a good time to get funded as a female producer because, you know, everyone just wants to help. But I understand back in the day, it was probably really, really difficult. Like, I was listening to an Andrew Shepp's... Oh, I think I was telling you about this before.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I haven't listened to it yet, but I've got it on my notes.
It's 9 hours long or something, so I don't blame you for having not listened to it yet. But yeah, Andrew Shepp's has a podcast with Trina Shoemaker, who is a female producer, and she was around when females just weren't allowed in the studio because men were just like, no, it'll be a different vibe once, you know, women's in the studio and stuff. And it took her years to get in the studio, but now I feel like everyone welcomes it, and it's because of all those kind of Trina Shoemakers and like the female producers before that have kind of like, you know, earned their position in the industry and stuff, and then are like, oh yeah, women are class at that too. So yeah, but I feel like I've actually always had a positive experience.
So if there was somebody who's like, you know, just starting out producing their own stuff, maybe an artist doing their own production, like what would your advice be to them?
I think just keep doing it. And like, I feel like when I released that EP from my bedroom, it was like, I don't even think I was bussing anything then, and I definitely wasn't even labelling tracks properly. And it was but everything I did like just worked for us at the time. So it's like, even if you know what you're doing isn't quite right, or you don't know what the like most efficient and best way to do things is yet, just keep doing it, because all those little nuances is like how to arrange your sessions better and how to like bus things and how to get everything working more efficiently. All them just come. Like, I feel like production is just a world where you just never stop learning and you never stop growing and you never stop changing. So it's like, no matter what stage you're at now, just like have confidence in it and like follow your ear always. Like, if it sounds good, who gives a shit what plugin you used on it, or even if you didn't EQ it, or if you didn't compress it properly, or you did this or you did that. Like, if it sounds good, fine. Like, I've used in these new tracks that I've been recently recording at Blank, I've used loads of stuff that I did in the original demos in my bedroom. That's like, shit, man, like, we could have recorded that loads better, but actually the vibe's just there and we can't recreate it. I do that with vocals all the time. I'm like, I can't recreate the demo vocals, but fuck it. Like, I know I haven't recorded them that well, but like, it's like sometimes performance over sound.
I'm glad to hear somebody say that, because that's something I constantly struggle with. Like, whenever I'm doing a demo, I'll just like, you know, I've got my little sound booth here, but I'll just grab the mic and just do like, oh, I'm just doing a demo. And then that'll be the vocal performance that's the best one. And I'm like, why didn't I set it up in the... And then I want to use it on the... So yeah, but it's nice to hear that, you know, sometimes you should choose that version because it's the one that had the performance in it.
Yeah, I've just did a song with John, and it's called Stop This Party. And I was like, do you know what, for this song, I feel like I don't want to like go into the live room and put some headphones on and sing through a fancy mic. I just want to vibe it, like in the mix room when you're there and the speakers are on, and I've just got any old mic kind of thing. I don't want this guitar sparkly thing, and I just want to like jam it out basically. And he was just like, yeah, man. And I was like, even if the speaker's on, like, is that fine for the lead or whatever? And he's like, yeah, it's just about getting the performance, like, let's just do it. And he totally encouraged it. Whereas some producers are sometimes like, no, like, you must have the best mic and you must stand correctly in the booth, or I don't know. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, I'm going to perform shitty, because you think, I can hear myself thinking, like, about the vocal performance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think as a producer, one of the most important things is being able to like create the right environment to get the best performance.
In part 2 of this interview, Cortney will be breaking down one of her earlier tracks in Logic to show us how she created the soundscape around it. It's definitely worth a watch. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you soon. Cool, and before we go on to the breakdown, are you working on anything at the minute that's going to come out soon, or is it a secret?
Yes. No, it's not a secret, but I have been working on loads of stuff that I'm like absolutely just dying to put out. I'm so excited about it. It's the first stuff that I'm about to release that I'm actually like really proud of for the first time. It's a really nice feeling, and I just feel like I've totally found, through absolute months and maybe even years of like experimenting and stuff, I just feel like I've really found what it is that I want to be doing. For the first time, I've just got some masters back actually for 3 singles. And normally I'm like, I would have done that a bit different, or maybe I'd done that a bit different. But I actually feel like if I could go back, I wouldn't change a thing. I feel like everything's the absolute best it could be with like the knowledge I have now. Like, I feel like I couldn't have done them any better, and in my head it's like exactly how I wanted it, and it's the first time I've ever experienced that, and it's a really, really good feeling. So I've got loads of stuff coming out. I don't have dates and stuff yet, but it will be this year, and I've got videos and stuff.
And Cortney has a brand new single.
Absolute loads of stuff to come, and I feel like I'm on a bit of a demoing role as well at the minute, so there'll be loads of stuff to come beyond those 3 singles
amazing.
as well. Right, so what I've decided to share is the very first song that I produced.
Ooh, amazing.
Yeah, because also the stuff that I've produced more recently is not out and won't be out for a while. So I just thought it might be good to go back to kind of like where it started and when it was just very creative and I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. So any pro producers that are watching this, just don't watch from here. That's like she did that wrong. But this came about in lockdown, and it was the first thing I produced from start to finish. And it all started because I just produced a demo of a song called Big Deal. Mm-hmm. And I felt like Big Deal needed a synth, and the synth I created didn't fit. So I was like, this is definitely a different song. So anyways, I did the synth, right? And it goes like this. There we go. This synth, can you hear it? Yeah. Okay, so that synth came about in a very obscure way. So basically, I just got this really cool synth sound up in Alchemy, and I fucked with it loads, and I think put loads like weird pedals on and stuff like that. But when you get, hang on, I'll get up Alchemy so you can see. Okay, so there's Alchemy. Cut that bit out. So do you see these things here?
Yep.
Right, so I realised that if I fucked about with these, it changed like the pitch of the synth.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to like record the changing of that, and it's basically one synth that when I moved these around went
interesting.
Right, and I didn't know how to record the movement of that, because when I just pressed record, obviously you just change the sound and the whole thing was that sound. Yeah. So I had my speakers on, and I had a microphone in between my legs facing the speakers recording the synth sound, as one hand was playing the piano and the other hand was changing the sound in Logic.
Oh wow, I love that.
And then obviously I had to EQ the shit out of it because it sounded shit. But yeah, and it created this. Yeah. And that kind of is what I wrote the whole song around. And then I was like, I want that to be the opening, but it's a little bit boring. And I was listening to a lot of Bon Iver at the time. So I just went and Googled, like, just people chatting shit. Can I swear in this podcast?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. I can think.
I'll get told otherwise, but I think it's fine.
Okay. Oh my god. So I just went and like got samples of people talking, I think, about aircrafts.
Man-made.
Oh, nice.
And then I just cut out the bits that I wanted, and
Yeah.
and then I realised I made a phrase that was man-made time. And these are the time. Just someone talking about time, and then I just put like echo on it. Basically, just Logic's echo. And then
Man-made.
Yeah. So that's how that came about. And then I was like, oh, well, that's cool because it's set. This is what I have to write the lyrics about now. And it was lockdown as well. So, I mean, I'm very aware that I'm getting into the songwritery side of it. So I'll not
fine.
get
Whatever, this isn't limited to just the production. I think it all combines personally. So.
Oh, okay, cool. So, yeah, it was kind of like at the time when I was doing Zoom chats with my friends on Friday night, and I felt just really lucky then because some of them were like going insane and had put like so much time on their Xboxes because they're just used to working 9 to 5 and they don't know how to kill their time in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So they just spent hours and hours and hours a day on Xbox and probably really looked forward to our Friday Zoom quiz chat things. But I just felt so lucky and grateful that I could just throw myself into doing loads of music. So the kind of whole thing is about kind of reverting back to your child self, like your inner child or whatever. Because do you remember when you're little and you used to play and you used to get yourself lost in like loads of different random things and you'd forget to do it, you just lose yourself for hours and hours on end. So that's like my version. Like the thing that gets us back to that feeling now is music, but I feel like everyone has a thing. It's just figuring out what that thing is that makes time like disappear. So anyways, that's what the song's about. Those guitars were going through my Strymon pedal, and if you put is it here? Do I have it here to show you? No, it's all the way over there. I'm sure it's like if you put it on like plate shimmer or something like that, it almost creates like quite a synthy thing that like a really cool tail on the reverb that almost sounds really sparkly and synthy, and I thought that really suited it. So I recorded that. I think I amped up my amp with my SM7. And then just, stuck that pedal through it and got this. So, the drums, I just used a Logic drummer, as you do. Yeah. And this is what it sounds like. So normally how I do my drums is I'll get kind of a bit of a Logic drummer up doing his thing, and then I'll just copy and paste it on like a MIDI track, so I can see everything he's playing, and then often just kind of move everything around and change it and reorganize it, and that's just kind of how I do my demo drums, because it's just easier than sat like drawing everything in. If it's already kind of there, just a basic like bass drum, snare, whatever, I can just move shit around. So I quite like doing it like that. So
for anybody for anybody that's listening that didn't realise they could do that, it took me years to realise, like, because I would just use the drummer samples and I didn't know you could adapt them in the MIDI at all, so I was like stuck with whatever they were playing. So for anybody that just figured that out,
it's a great revelation to have. It saves a lot of time. So that's the drummer. As you can tell, with this being the first thing I properly produced, I had no idea that colour coding was so useful and naming tracks. So everything's blue apart from these, which are green, and everything's just like vocals, guitar, and then lots of things are just audio. So often, especially from demoing, I'll not bother labeling things, which makes my life hell down the line. Sometimes I'll be like audio 101 and think that's perfectly acceptable, and it's not. So it kind of had once did that this kind of going on. And then all I could hear over the top of that was a choir. It was just like, I just need a choir. So yeah, then I just kept layering up all these vocals. I actually found what works really good on my vocals is just an SM7. I think so I've got quite like a screechy voice. It's got quite a lot of top end, and I feel like the SM7 is really good for like kind of dulling it a little bit. So I actually really like using this SM7 for most things. Yeah. I think it upsets people when I go into like fancy studios and they're like, use that 10 grand mic, and I'm like, actually do you just have an SM7? So I actually still use Alchemy for a lot of sounds, because I find if you have, I've worked with producers who have just millions and millions of synth sounds, and I just get choice paralysis, and It drives us mad, and I find you just spend about 3 hours trying to find a synth sound. Yeah. Whereas with Alchemy, you're quite limited, and I think limitation sometimes is a really good thing, and that's when you get creative. So often I find a lot of my synth sounds by like using just Alchemy stuff and then just putting it through like guitar pedals and just messing with it really until it sounds how I want it to sound. I don't know if I did that here. I don't know if I did. I think I just found a really nice little like, oh.
That's nice.
And a nice bass. So I was just using
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, just using a dub bass of Alchemy and sending it to like a bit of a reverb on these bits. What was I using here? Just electronic piano vox layers, and it sounded really nice. I was just like, oh god, that sounds lush. Yeah, and the synths just keep going and then goes back reverse. And then that's kind of the song. I kind of just wanted to make it super simple. I imagined like a 1970s like girl in a big long glittery ball gown with a disco ball just being like, so that's how I just wanted it to sound, like just super reverby, and like they're just in like this big hall alone with a disco ball in a big long black sparkly dress. But yeah, I wanna love you. So yeah, like that was kind of the first song I ever really produced from start to finish, and felt like it just loved doing it, and it just opened up my world. And this is like super simple. I've learned how to bust things now.
Well, I was going to ask you. I think that's an incredible first one. But now, is there anything you do differently? I'm just curious.
Yeah, loads of stuff I do differently now. I label things better. I colour code things. I put things in a better order. So I've kind of learned loads of stuff in terms of like how to get your sessions to run better and busting things out, and plugins and stuff. Can I show you my favourite plugin ever?
Yes, please do. Please do.
Oh my god. So this, I'm sure, is like either £15 or £15, something like. It's very cheap, but basically once you've got it, you can give it to people. So I've given it to quite a lot of people now. And it's this, and it's just fantastic.
I love the interface. I would just get it for that.
Yeah. If you don't have it, get it. Everyone I've given it to is like, oh my god, I love that sketch cassette
Tell
thing.
me what it does.
So it kind of like obviously replicates like just a really shitty tape sound. You can control the amount of hiss, but you can like, often I like to put it on drums and like really fuck up the drums. But you have a lot like sets in it that you can just go through, or like you can create your own, but it kind of just makes things sound really cool, and you can get really creative with it. And often if I get a sound and I'm like, that's just too clean and nice, I don't like it, I stick it through that, and it just you can like get really creative and fuck shit up.
Yeah. Do you think that can totally change whether the song works or not, something like that?
Oh my god, yeah, 100%. Like, I think I use it quite a lot in like I'm going to take that off because otherwise I'm going to listen to this back and be like, what is going on? Yeah, it sparks loads of creative ideas. So I use it quite a lot in like the songwriting process, really. I think if you're vibing off like a drum sound or a guitar sound or something like that, and you're like, God, that sounds really cool. You really get into it and you record some cool vocals or stuff like that. I was obsessed, before I got any other reverbs, I was obsessed with silver reverb.
Yes.
I just loved it, and I use it
on
everything, as you can see here, but like just different kind of wet and dry mixes.
Yeah.
But now, can I tell you what my favourite
Yes.
reverb is at the minute? So my favourite reverb at the minute is Valhalla.
Oh, see, I still haven't got this, and I hear everybody talking about it.
You need to get it.
Do I need to get it? Okay.
You need to get it. It's great. It's not that expensive. It does everything. It's absolutely class. And do you know what is really funny? As soon as you put it on, the first like reverb it pops up with, like the default thing, just sounds mint. So often you're just like, I'm just gonna put that on, and just like turn on the next bit, and then you're just like, that sounds class, I'm leaving it. Sounds so good. I actually wish that I'd had that plug in when I did this track.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that it's like, oh, if I could go back in time and redo it, I could have made it sound so much better. But that's just kind of a part of growing and getting better. I'm really good now at just being like, that's the best I could have done with the knowledge I had at that time, and then you just have to move on and let it go.
Oh, I need to adopt that, because I have so many moments of like, I want to delete everything I've ever done that I don't like and like never look at it again. But you're so right. That's how you progress and develop. So I'm gonna be more Cortney.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a very recent thing. I'm sure it was like 2 weeks ago when I was like, I'm deleting everything on Spotify. I'm getting rid of everything. And I still want to do that a little bit. But I understand that, you know, it's just progression, and probably in 3 years' time I'll feel the same about the stuff that I now really like. But it's just, if you like it at the time, you just got to do it.
If you want to hear more of Cortney's latest releases, make sure you follow her on Spotify and go behind the scenes with her on Instagram at www.instagram.com/Cortney Dixon. If this is the first time you're tuning into this series, check out the other episodes at Narc Magazine. You can find us on Spotify or watch the animated version at www.youtube.com/Narc Magazine TV.